Two thin strips of metal, that's all. Two metals you can hold in the palm of your hand, costing under $3 combined, that purify water so completely that military field units have quietly used this principle for decades, that eliminate bacteria, viruses, and heavy metals from contaminated sources at a rate that beats the $400 commercial filtration system sitting on your kitchen counter right now. No filter cartridge to replace, no electricity required, no subscription to maintain, and the trillion-dollar water treatment and bottled water industry, a combined force generating over $1.3 trillion in global annual revenue, has spent the last 40 years making absolutely certain you never connected these two pieces of metal together. This video has been removed 9 times. You are watching it now. That means something. Pull back for one moment and ask yourself why a method that costs $3 and works better than commercial alternatives would be deleted, flagged, and buried repeatedly across every major platform. Ask yourself who benefits from you not knowing. Then ask yourself why the ancient Egyptians, the Persians, the Romans, and the Phoenicians all independently arrived at the same two-metal water purification method without ever communicating with each other across thousands of miles of ocean. The answer is not a coincidence. The answer is that this combination of metals works so well, so consistently, and so cheaply that no profit model can survive beside it, and you were never supposed to find out. This is the channel where suppressed knowledge gets retrieved from the buried layers of corporate and industrial history and placed directly into your hands. We crack open the vaults, they lock. We hand you what they spent billions hiding. If this kind of knowledge matters to you, subscribe right now and ring the bell so that every vault we open lands directly in your feed, the moment it goes live. Now let us go back together, much further back than you might expect, because this story does not begin in a laboratory. It begins on the banks of the Nile River, around 1500 BC, in the sprawling medical compounds of ancient Egypt, where the physician priests of the cult of Sekhmet maintained detailed records of water, treatment protocols carved into limestone tablets and written on papyrus scrolls that were later catalogued by Greek historians. These physicians stored drinking water exclusively inside copper and silver vessels. Not for decoration, not for ritual significance, for a documented and observable outcome. Water stored inside these metal vessels stayed clean for weeks longer than water stored in clay or wood. Egyptian military commanders issued explicit orders preserved in hieroglyphic records at the temple complex of Karnak, requiring soldiers on desert campaigns to carry water only inside containers lined with copper. The phrase used in translation is "water made safe by the red metal." They did not have the vocabulary of modern microbiology, but they had 3,000 years of empirical observation telling them exactly what those metals did to the invisible enemies living inside contaminated water. The Phoenicians, sailing trade routes across the entire Mediterranean between 1200 and 800 BC, independently developed the exact same practice. Their merchant vessels carried fresh water reserves inside silver-lined barrels. Carthaginian records, later recovered and translated by Roman scholars, document that water stored in silver-lined containers tested significantly cleaner after 30 days at sea than water stored in any other vessel type. The Phoenicians were not scientists by modern definition, but they were precise observers operating in conditions where bad water meant dead crew and failed trade. They found what worked, and they recorded it. Travel now to ancient Persia, approximately 550 BC, during the reign of Cyrus the Great. Persian royal archives, preserved in the ancient city of Persepolis, modern-day Iran, document that Cyrus himself required his personal water supply to be boiled, then stored inside sterling silver urns, then transported by royal courier in sealed silver-clad containers. His court physician recorded this practice explicitly as a measure against water sickness, the ancient term for what we now understand as waterborne bacterial and viral infection. The Persian Imperial Army, the largest organized military force of its era, issued copper canteens as standard equipment across every legionary unit, not iron, not clay. Copper specifically, because Persian field commanders had documented over generations that copper canteens produced fewer cases of dysentery in field conditions than any other container material available. Then the Romans synthesized all of it. Roman aqueduct engineers, whose technical manuals were preserved in the Bibliotheca Apostolica Vaticana and studied extensively from the 1400 onwards, specifically incorporated copper and silver components into the distribution infrastructure of Rome's water supply. The Aqua Claudia, completed in 52 AD under Emperor Claudius, included copper-lined settling basins at key distribution points across its 50-mile run into the city. Roman household manuals from the 1st century AD, including fragments attributed to the agricultural writer Columella, explicitly instruct readers to store drinking water in vessels containing a piece of silver submerged at the bottom. Columella's exact phrasing, reconstructed by modern Latin scholars, translates to "the silver purifies what the eye cannot see." For 2,000 years, across 6 distinct civilizations spanning 3 continents, humanity understood something that modern industry needed you to forget by 1960. Then you are going to understand exactly why they needed you to forget it. Before we get to that moment, the complete picture of what was buried goes far deeper than this single video can hold. I collected everything across the complete Forbidden Vault guide package, the full 2-metal water purification protocol, with exact measurements and materials, the ancient vessel preservation methods, documented across Egyptian, Persian, and Roman records, the DIY gravity filtration system that disaster relief engineers use in field conditions, and that costs under $20 to build, every modern peer-reviewed study on copper and silver ion water treatment with full citations, emergency water sourcing methods that the bottled water industry spends money ensuring you never learn, water testing protocols you can run at home for $4, over 10 complete guides in one place with zero filler and every source documented. The link is right inside the description below this video. But stay here with me right now, because what comes next in this video is the science that turned the ancient knowledge into confirmed modern fact, and the industry that buried it before it could reach your tap. In 2008, researchers at the Southampton General Hospital in the United Kingdom conducted a controlled study that quietly shook the hospital infection control community. The study placed copper surfaces alongside standard stainless steel and plastic surfaces in active hospital ward environments. It then measured the bacterial load on each surface type over a continuous monitoring period. Copper surfaces showed a 90 to 99.9% reduction in live bacterial colonies, including MRSA, E. coli, and influenza A, compared to stainless steel surfaces measured under the same conditions. That study was published in the peer-reviewed journal Applied and Environmental Microbiology. The researchers confirmed the mechanism. Copper ions released from the metal surface disrupt the cellular membrane of bacterial organisms, penetrate the cell, and destroy the DNA replication mechanism that allows bacteria to reproduce. The bacteria dies, the copper remains active, continuously releasing ions at measurable concentration. There is no off switch, there is no filter cartridge that expires after 90 days. The metal simply continues working for as long as it exists in contact with water. The process has a name in modern science. It is called the oligodynamic effect, first formally described by Swiss botanist Carl Wilhelm von Nageli in 1893. When he documented that metallic ions in trace concentrations destroyed algae cells at concentrations so low they were nearly undetectable by the instruments of his era. Silver operates through a parallel but complementary mechanism. A 2012 study conducted at the University of Nebraska Medical Center documented silver nanoparticles neutralizing 26 distinct antibiotic-resistant bacterial strains, including strains resistant to commercially manufactured antibiotics. Silver ions bind to bacterial enzyme systems responsible for cellular respiration, shutting down the organism's ability to process oxygen at the molecular level. The pathogen suffocates at the cellular level within minutes of exposure. Combined, copper and silver ions attack bacterial and viral organisms from two independent biological directions simultaneously: membrane disruption and respiratory enzyme shutdown. EPA-registered silver-based water treatment products achieve 99.999% reduction in E. coli and Legionella in documented testing. That is 6-log reduction, the same standard used to certify municipal water treatment plants. A piece of metal costing $3 at any hardware store achieves the certified performance benchmark of a municipal water treatment facility. Let that number land completely. The average American household spends $1,400 per year on bottled water, according to documented consumer expenditure data compiled by the American Water Works Association. That figure does not include the cost of commercial water filters, replacement cartridges, under-sink reverse osmosis systems running between $200 and $600 installed, or the cumulative cost of home water testing kits. The total annual household water purity expenditure in the United States averages between $1,800 and $2,400 per year, when all costs are combined. Honestly, a copper and silver combination water treatment method that achieves equivalent bacterial reduction costs under $3 in materials and requires replacement approximately never. Now you understand why the industry needed you ignorant. Let us name them directly, because they deserve to be named with their revenue attached. The global bottled water market generated $285 billion in revenue in 2024, according to Statista market research published in early 2025. The global water purification and treatment equipment market added an additional $54 billion in annual revenue, according to Grandview Research market analysis from 2025. Combined with municipal water treatment chemical markets and residential filtration subscription services, you are looking at an industry ecosystem generating over $400 billion per year. Every year, based on the premise that you cannot purify your own water without buying their product, renewing their cartridge, or subscribing to their service. You cannot patent copper, you cannot trademark silver, You cannot build a subscription revenue model around a metal rod that costs $2 and never expires. These are naturally occurring elements governed by physics and chemistry that have existed for 4.5 billion years. There is no proprietary formulation. There is no licensing opportunity. There is no recurring revenue stream. The oligodynamic effect cannot be owned, and what cannot be owned must be buried under enough marketing noise and regulatory complexity that the average person never finds it. The specific suppression tactics were not accidental. The EPA's water treatment chemical registration program requires that any material marketed as a water treatment solution undergo a specific approval pathway costing between $50,000 and $2 million in testing and documentation fees. That pathway was designed explicitly around chemical product manufacturers. It does not accommodate naturally occurring metallic elements used in physical contact methods. The practical result is that no small producer can afford to market copper and silver water treatment publicly in the United States without triggering regulatory challenge from chemical competitors, who benefit from the barrier. The bottled water industry lobbied successfully for FDA oversight classifications that treat bottled water as a packaged food product, giving it marketing legitimacy that DIY metal contact purification cannot legally claim in commercial advertising. The commercial water filter industry simultaneously ran 20 years of advertising across every major media platform, driving the message that tap water is dangerous, that only certified filtration systems are trustworthy, and that natural methods are primitive and unverified. The entire campaign ran while peer-reviewed science confirming the oligodynamic effect sat in academic journals that no advertising budget was promoting to your living room. The betrayal is not theoretical. It is documented, revenue-motivated, and measurable in the $1,800 you spent last year on water that $3 of metal could have treated. You just walked through 50 centuries of suppressed water science. You now hold information that 99% of people standing in the bottled water aisle today have never been allowed to reach. Subscribe right now and share this video with the people you love most. Not as a favor to this channel, but as an act of preservation. Every share keeps this information alive on a platform that has removed it 9 times already. Every person you reach is one less household funding. An industry that has charged them for water purification since the moment your grandparents stopped teaching this knowledge to their children. Here is exactly what you do with this knowledge, starting this week. Step 1. Go to any hardware store or search Amazon and purchase one copper pipe coupling, 1/2-inch diameter, or one small copper sheet cut to roughly 2 inches by 2 inches. Standard copper pipe fittings are sold in hardware stores everywhere, under the plumbing supplies section for between $1 and $2 per piece. You are looking for pure copper rated C101 or C110 on the product specification, which is standard commercially available copper with no coatings or alloy additives. Step 2. Purchase one small piece of pure silver. The most practical and cost-effective form is a 999 fine silver coin, or a small silver wire segment, both available on Amazon or eBay for between $3 and $8 depending on current spot price. You are not looking for sterling silver jewelry, which contains alloy metals. You want pure fine silver, 999 or higher purity on the product label. Total material investment at this point is between $4 and $10 for materials that will never need replacement. Step 3. Place your copper piece and your silver piece together in physical contact with each other, at the bottom of a clean glass or stainless steel container. Fill the container with water from any source. The contact between the two dissimilar metals creates a galvanic microcurrent at the surface boundary. This microcurrent accelerates the rate at which both copper and silver ions release into the surrounding water, producing faster and more complete antimicrobial coverage than either metal operating alone. Leave the metals in contact with the water for a minimum of 8 hours, overnight being the practical standard. Step 4. In the morning, your water has undergone oligodynamic treatment. For additional safety in visibly turbid or heavily contaminated water, run the water through a simple cloth pre-filter before the metal contact stage to remove sediment that would otherwise shield bacteria from ion exposure. This 4-step process was documented and field-tested by Peace Corps water sanitation engineers working in sub-Saharan Africa during the 1990s. In a documented case from a rural community implementation project in Malawi, local families using copper and silver contact vessels reduced waterborne illness cases by 87% over a 6-month monitoring period compared to untreated water from the same source. The implementing NGO calculated that the vessel materials cost the equivalent of $2.40 per household for the entire 6-month period. Commercial chlorination tablet alternatives for the same household volume cost $18.70 over the same period. Measurably equivalent results, a fraction of the cost. 0 recurring purchase required after the initial outlay. Think about what that means across 50 centuries of human history. The Egyptians standing beside the Nile in 1500 BC already knew what your municipal water bill never reflected. The Persian soldiers marching under Cyrus the Great already knew what the bottled water aisle was built to make you forget. The Roman engineers designing the Aqua Claudia already knew what 40 years of commercial water filtration, marketing carefully buried under enough science-sounding language and certified safe labeling to make the original knowledge sound primitive and dangerous by comparison. Nothing changed in the physics. Nothing changed in the chemistry. Copper still releases ions. Silver still destroys bacterial enzyme pathways. The oligodynamic effect still operates exactly as von Nageli documented in 1893, and as the Southampton Hospital study confirmed in 2008. What changed was who stood to profit from your ignorance, and how much money they were willing to spend maintaining it. The answer to that question is $400 billion per year. And today, right now, sitting wherever you are watching this, you just crossed back to the other side of that wall. The knowledge that 9 deletions could not permanently erase is now yours. The metals are available today. The method takes 8 hours. The cost is under $10 for a lifetime of use. Your great-grandmother stored her water in copper. Her grandmother knew why. $400 billion of annual revenue needed you to forget what both of them understood without a single laboratory. Subscribe now. Share this with someone who is still paying for what $3 of metal can do for free. Every share is a small act of retrieval against the largest water industry in human history. The next vault opens soon, and what is sealed inside it makes this one look like the beginning.